I'd like to start with where you left off in conversation with Mr. Motz, where he asked you about the declarations, and you said both the Ontario and federal government's declarations were, quote, incredibly helpful. Could you give us a little more color as to how the national invocation was helpful?
Yes, sir, I'll do my best. Please understand, I remained in office some 24 hours after the federal one was invoked, and the provincial one was just 72 hours before that. Primarily, for me, it provided a massive lift in resources. The facilitation, particularly of swearing in of special constable status across the country to allow the airlift of officers arriving from literally every province into the city was massively important. The provisions that allowed us to get greater access, predictable and sustainable access to tow trucks and other related resources. There are other provisions that I was less aware of at the time of in office, but subsequently through reading and research, I could see how it would be incredibly effective. Never in my working life have I seen the extent of such measures, but singularly removing from the immediate theater of the downtown core anybody in the process of protesting or traveling to the protest would have alleviated a wide range of public safety and officer safety risks, while the officers focused primarily on removing the vehicles and the persons in the red zone. You never want to be caught between multiple angles of potential hostile threat actors. And again, without being in command of the Ottawa Police Service and being on the ground, watching as a private citizen, not an officer not having to watch over their back and can focus on the primary threats in front of them, is an incredibly important aspect of public safety and officer safety.
Thanks very much. I as you know, live in Ottawa and observed this all very personally and close at hand. A number of Ottawa citizens were quite perplexed, I dare say, with the attempted agreement by Mayor Watson with Tamara Lish with respect to removing some of the convoy and putting them on Wellington Avenue. Were you consulted before these conversations took place between the mayor and Ms. Tish?
I was aware that there were negotiations going on between the mayor and third parties. I was not, and no member of my police service, to my knowledge, was involved in any of the direct negotiations.
Did this make your job more difficult?
There were several efforts that I'm aware of at all three levels of government in different parts of the country to engage in interlocutor conversations, negotiations. Some were more than successful, some less so.
Would you have supported the removal of large vehicles from the downtown area and the placement of those vehicles on Wellington?
I would not have supported any additional vehicles going into the red zone areas, but I would have supported vehicles leaving any portion of the downtown area.
I think we all
participating in the events surrounding the convoys. Yes, sir.
If I have a few seconds left, I'd like to get back to your now twice repeated description of structural deficits. Could you elaborate beyond the policing one, what you've referred to, what you mean by those structural deficits that we must address if we are to be better protected against future events?
I appreciate your ask for me to go beyond the policing ones, but that is my realm of expertise. What I will say is that they range from underinvestment or misinvestment financially and otherwise in the capabilities of our police services across this country. Our police services are one of the fundamental elements of our national security structure. From my experience in private sector, my relationships with national security directors, deputy directors, and senior officials, senior analysts within national security organizations, we have not fundamentally invested, not necessarily dollars and cents, but invested in our national security policing capabilities. This goes back well before even my time as a police officer, but certainly we have not kept up with the times. Those structural deficits have been exposed in other events that we've experienced over the last several decades, but they were fully exposed, I think really exposed, in the events that took place over those several weeks in January and February.